It's the last call. Dodge is offering 7 special and final editions of the Charger and Challenger for 2023. This Charger Swinger, that is the name, that is one of them. Special graphics, special colors, even special horsepower, up to 807 horsepower. It's the last time Dodge is making a V8 before it says it's gonna go hybrid and probably all electric. So if you like the performance and the raw ridiculousness of these rear-wheel drive Dodge vehicles, this is your last chance. The Charger hasn't changed much since 2015, when this generation came out. For the last call, there's just 1,000 copies of the Charger Swinger and another 1,000 of the 2-door Challenger Swinger. This is limited. In the last year, you get all of the engines. The base Charger has a 3.6-liter V6. That's the old naturally aspirated Pentastar that has been out for many, many years, even longer than the Charger itself. That one's okay, but it does pair with all-wheel drive, so you're in a winter state or in a lot of snow and you just want to drive a lot slower. That's the one for you. That's the rental car grade, let's just put it that way. The real step up is the 5.7 or the 345, because this year, every 2023 Charger comes with 345 on the fenders to let you know in cubic inches. Old school. That's on the RT models. This is based on the Scat Pack wide body, so it has the full 392. That's a 6.4-liter Hemi V8, making a ton of power. And if that's not enough, well, of course you know where I'm talking about now. It's the Hellcat V8, up to 807 horsepower. Oh, tread carefully. Supercharged, no fuel economy. We're not even gonna talk about that because you don't care. Like every Charger with a wide body, you're getting massive fender extensions to hide these 305mm width tires. That's a square setup, 305 in the front, and it really can't contain all the power. This one's only 485 horsepower, and they run all-season tires. You really, really want to get summers if you're buying one of these cars, and hopefully you're driving it in a dry and warm state. Now the Swinger has some special features. These very deep dish bronze colored wheels. I absolutely love how those look. It contrasts very well with the green paint, that's a historic color, and the gold Super Bee, that's what they call these special little cartoon logos that are on the trunk and on the side fenders. Otherwise, it's all Charger all the time. It's the same car you've seen since 2015, the same bones of a Mercedes E-Class from the 90s, but that's all underneath. It just looks wild. It's hot right here because this air scoop is functional, so all the heat out of this giant motor comes right out. Everything here is functional on the Charger. There's nothing that's for show. And when you do pop the hood, you'll see a special last call plaque showing the final assembly, and so you can prove that this truly is a last call and not some fake imitation. We don't do those here. And neither are the brakes. Those are real Brembos, 6-piston, very large up front, because you will, at some point, need to stop very quickly. The Swinger's best feature is the back end, where this decal is. Now, it's not a Bentley, so you'll notice some overlap between the trunk and the back fender. So what? It's better build quality than it was in the 70s, and certainly back in 1969 when this name was applied to the Dart. But any way you see it, this is the RT wide-body Scat Pack, just like it is on every other Charger. The big fat oval exhaust tips, huge rear tires, the big fenders, the black deck lid spoiler. But this one with this green paint, that's another retro color that Dodge has pulled out of the history books. This is the one you really want, and yeah, you'll know what Swinger means. This is where you sit to drive fast. That's the purpose of any Charger interior. The seats are actually pretty snug. Materials are actually okay. They're not class leading. This is really a class of 1, so it actually does lead. The Swinger comes with Napa leather and Alcantara seats with green stitching and the green Dodge Romby logo. That's what they're using on all the new cars. It also comes with basil green accent stitching on the dash. Basil is my favorite herb. It doesn't smell like basil though. And you also get a Swinger badge on the passenger side dash and some special bezels for the instrument panel. Otherwise, it is standard grade Charger. Another great thing about the interior is that it's the same interior it's been for the last 10 or so years. So you get into this and I know exactly what to do. Everything's right at hand. The Charger's screen is 8.4 inches, it's square, so it looks small and antiquated, and it's running an older version of Uconnect. But I see the positives, because this system has always been fast, always been very easy to use, and all these analog controls for volume and the climate control makes everything so much easier, like pressing the drive mode button. Not only can you go from sport to track, but the custom mode will let you disable the paddle shifters and re-enable the traction control. Say if you put it on track mode, well, you don't always want to drive at the lowest levels of assist. That's how I would drive. The performance pages is the app that's truly modern and not included on most cars. Oil temp, oil pressure, every single readout you can possibly get, the engine, the dyno, you can see live horsepower and torque curves. And if you go back, you can change the launch control settings. Say if you want the engine to be at 2,500 RPM, activate the line lock system, which will automatically brake the front wheels so you can smoke the rears. Gotta love that graphic. These are tech features that you will not find in cars like a BMW M5 and other high-priced European cars. FCA and now Stellantis have baked all of these systems in here, and they work pretty well. There's no full digital instrument cluster, it's just a central display and 2 analog gauges. But if you go through using the steering wheel buttons, you get a ton of information right at a glance, including important things like your quarter mile and 0 to 60 times. Things like your top speed, which we're not going to show, and driver assist, including adaptive cruise control. There's not that much safety on board. There's also not much fuel economy on board either, but you knew that with this car. But all the information and the customization with it is accessible. Rule number 1 when driving any Charger with the V8, only go full throttle when the steering wheel is at 0 degrees. Or else you can go on Instagram to see what happens when you don't. What's nice about the Charger Swinger is that it's the 6.4 liter Hemi. So it's naturally aspirated, and it has all the power you could ever desire without getting into ridiculously illegal level of speeds. This will still do that, and in fact, it encourages it. But it's just that much harder to get yourself into Hellcat levels of trouble. So I would say if you want to save some money, save a lot of money, probably 20 or 30 grand, pick up a Swinger and just go a little slower. Or not. This 8-speed automatic transmission has been perfect from day 1 in this generation Charger. It's a ZF unit made for a lot of premium German rear-wheel drive luxury cars. And on here, it's just as amazing. Any car that this transmission fits inside just works like a glove. It's just so responsive in these paddle shifters. And any of the multiple driving modes here, I'm in sport, and if you go to track quickens those shifts even more, even on the downshifts. But it's never jerky, it never tosses your head. The Hellcat will do that. Thank goodness there's brakes too, because you never know when you need those, but it's definitely rougher in track mode. And there's no fake engine sounds at all. That's pure V8 induction, pure V8 exhaust. There's no need to silence it. There's no need for noise cancellation, any little fake sounds that you adjust in the touchscreen. The only thing that's doing that is the throttle, which is opening up an actual throttle plate. Nothing is fancy. Nothing, because it doesn't need to be. Because the Charger is based on an old Mercedes-Benz from the 90s, they've strengthened the chassis considerably since then, but the underlying chassis and the framework of this car date back that far. Because when Daimler bought Chrysler in that era, Chrysler and Dodge, they got a lot of great parts. And the truth is that E-Class from that era was so good that Dodge just needed to reinforce it to meet current and updated safety regulations for crash testing. So you take an old Mercedes frame and a lot of really hallmark Mercedes traits, what are you going to end up with? A car that feels pretty solid, first and foremost, and one that rides and has a lot of control. So just because this is a brute force muscle car does not mean that you can't relax with it. And that you can't even take some turns with it, because you can. Having 305mm front tires is basically all Dodge can do to stabilize this car with this much power. Before the era of the wide-body Chargers, it was a lot scarier, it really was. Not that all of the fear has been removed, but there's a lot more traction, there's a lot more stability. And over the years, Dodge has pretty much perfected the balance of the car. If you drive this car at roughly 5/10s, it's gonna feel pretty neutral and pretty stable. If you go further, and there's two different levels of the stability control that will gradually remove some of those aids, well, you'll find that it oversteers plenty. But I'm not really too afraid driving on a back road, because as long as you respect a car like this, it'll treat you with respect. Of course, the more you drive, the more you want to keep pushing and pushing and pushing a little bit more. And that's what I love about these cars, because they goad you into some bad behavior. Keep yourself in check. Don't be a menace to society. Be a mild menace. That's really what Dodge wants you to do. Because the experience is just fun. The only way to replicate the performance and the feel of a Charger is to go up to, say, a BMW M5 for roughly double the cost. That is a much better car. Okay, it is. But for all of the emotion that this delivers, I love it. I mean, I know how absolutely old this is. When you look at it in completely factual measures, this car just does not compete with anything. It doesn't. It shouldn't even be on the road anymore. But that's not the point, because everyone who loves these V8s buys them for this exact reason. It's the feeling. The feeling that's lost in a lot of modern cars, especially EVs, sad to say. Will EVs get better? Will Dodge get better at making EVs that people want to buy? I have hope. The 2023 Dodge Charger comes in 7 trims, from $34,230 all the way up to $91,250, and those are base prices. My Swinger Edition for 2023, $64,855 with destination and a bunch of options. At the lower end, it's competing against the Chevy Malibu and Chrysler 300. That's with the V6 and all-wheel drive. But when you put a V8 in the Charger, it's competing against Cadillac Blackwings, a BMW M3. But really, anyone who wants a Charger with a V8, they only want this and nothing else. Objectively, the Charger is a bad car. It shouldn't be on the road anymore, it's super old, but that's not how I'm gonna judge it, and that's not how any of the customers who want one of these last call models are ever gonna look at it. The performance, the heritage, the fact that Dodge isn't gonna make a V8 like this ever again, it's a ton of fun, and these cars are gonna hold their value well into the future. What do you think? Go to CarGurus.com, subscribe to our YouTube channel for more performance car reviews, and we'll see you next time. As decent as this chassis is, the main reason for buying one is to go straight. And that will never get old.